the enemy's child he protected. Now the alien mother demands he was a systems survey engineer, not a soldier, not a diplomat, and definitely not someone meant to make decisions that could affect two civilizations. His job was simple: inspect abandoned human outposts on the edge of neutral space, record structural damage, and leave before the next supply ship arrived. This planet was supposed to be empty. The outpost sat on a flat stretch of gray-blue stone under a quiet sky. No storms. No wildlife. No signs of recent activity. The place had been abandoned for over a year after border talks failed between humanity and the Keller Union, an alien civilization officially labeled as a political enemy. Not hostile, not friendly, just dangerous to deal with. Elias moved carefully through the airlock, boots echoing softly against the metal floor. His helmet scanner showed low power readings, old systems barely alive. He frowned. "That's odd," he muttered to himself. Power meant something or someone had been here recently. He followed the readings down a narrow corridor toward the auxiliary research wing. The lights flickered as he passed, responding to his presence like the outpost itself had been waiting. Then he heard it. A sound, soft, uneven, not mechanical. Elias stopped. His heart began to beat faster, not from fear, but from confusion. There shouldn't be anyone here. The nearest human settlement was days away. The Keller didn't use human outposts. He lowered his scanner and listened. The sound came again, almost like breathing, but lighter. Smaller. "Hello?" Elias called, his voice calm but cautious. No answer. He moved slowly, following the sound to a storage room near the back of the wing. The door was partially open, bent inward as if forced manually. Inside, the lights were dim and supply crates were scattered across the floor. And then he saw it. The child was curled up between two crates, its body trembling. Elias froze. It was not human. Its skin shimmered faintly, like polished stone underwater. Long fingers clutched a torn piece of fabric, and its large eyes, too large for a human face, stared at him with pure fear. A small crest along its head pulsed with soft color changes, shifting rapidly. A Keller child. Elias felt the air leave his lungs. This was impossible. Keller civilians never traveled near disputed space, especially not children. And yet here one was, alone, frightened, and clearly injured. A thin mark ran along one arm, not bleeding but glowing faintly. The child pressed itself further into the corner when Elias took a step forward. "No," Elias said quickly, raising both hands. "No, it's okay, I won't hurt you." The words probably meant nothing to it, but his tone mattered. He kept his movements slow, controlled. He knelt down several feet away and removed his helmet, placing it on the floor to show his face. "I'm Elias," he said softly. "I'm not a soldier, I'm just working." The child watched him, eyes unblinking. Elias' training screamed at him to leave. To report the discovery immediately, to seal the room and wait for command instructions. But the child was shaking, and it was small. Smaller than a human child, fragile-looking, its thin chest rising and falling too fast. Whatever had happened, it had been alone for some time. Elias glanced at his wrist console. If he reported this now, Keller authorities would be alerted. They would come quickly, and human command would step in just as fast. This would turn into politics. The child would become a problem. Elias looked back at the child and made a decision that would change his life. Slowly, he reached into his pack and pulled out a sealed nutrition bar. He unwrapped it halfway and set it on the floor between them, then pushed it gently forward. The child did not move. Elias waited. Minutes passed in silence. Finally, the child's crest shifted to a dull blue. It crawled forward just enough to sniff the air. Then, cautiously, it reached out and touched the bar. Nothing happened. It took the bar and retreated, eating it in small bites, never taking its eyes off Elias. Elias let out a quiet breath. "Good," he whispered. He spent the next hour sitting there, saying little, doing even less. He activated the room's climate controls, warming the space slightly. He offered water. He patched the broken door so it would close fully, giving the child a sense of safety. He didn't touch it, not once. By the time the child finally relaxed enough to lie down, curled against a crate, Elias knew he was in trouble. Because the child had moved closer to him. Not close enough to touch, but close enough to feel safe. When Elias stood to leave and retrieve medical supplies, the child made a small sound, sharp and distressed. It reached out, fingers wrapping weakly around the fabric of his suit. Elias froze again. "It's okay," he said gently. "I'll come back, I promise." The child did not let go. Something in Elia's chest tightened painfully. He carefully sat back down. "All right," he murmured. "I'll stay." Over the next 2 days, Elias did everything he could without drawing attention. He diverted power, sealed communication logs, and marked the outpost as still unstable to delay incoming traffic. He used basic medical tools to treat the child's injury, following his scanner's guidance. The child began to improve. It explored the room, touched everything, watched Elias with endless curiosity. It made soft clicking sounds when content, low hums when anxious. It followed him from room to room, always staying just behind him like a shadow. Elias learned small things. The child liked warmth. It liked light. It liked when Elias spoke, even if it didn't understand the words, and it hated silence. On the third night, as Elias rested against a wall, the child approached him and placed a small hand against his chest. Its crest glowed a soft, steady green. It spoke a word. "Sath," Elias' translator struggled, then produced a rough meaning. "Safe one." Elias swallowed hard. That night, a warning alert appeared on his console. Unidentified vessel entering orbit. Keller design. Elias looked at the sleeping child beside him, curled against his leg. The enemy had come, and they were not coming quietly. He knew then that this was no longer about rules or borders or orders. It was about what came next, and whether one human's choice would matter at all. It stayed solid. That was worse. A blinking alert meant uncertainty, an automated system still gathering information. A solid alert meant confirmation. Something was already here, and it had been identified. Elias sat still, his back against the wall of the storage room. The outpost was quiet except for the faint hum of old machinery and the soft breathing of the child beside him. The small alien slept curled close to his leg, its crest glowing faintly green in slow, steady pulses. Keller vessel in orbit. Elias did not need to check the details to know what that meant. They were looking for something, or someone. Slowly, carefully, Elias adjusted his position so he would not wake the child. He reached for his console and dimmed its light. His mind raced, but his body stayed calm. Panic would help no one. The Keller were not known for fast action. They observed, they measured. They demanded explanations before taking steps. That was one small mercy, but eventually they would scan the outpost, and they would find the child. Elias looked down. The child shifted in its sleep, one long finger still hooked loosely into the fabric of his sleeve. It made a soft humming sound, almost content. Elias felt something deep and unfamiliar settle in his chest. Responsibility. He had not chosen this situation, but he had chosen his actions. He had fed the child. He had stayed. He had become somehow the center of its small world. Leaving now was no longer an option. When the child woke, it did so quietly. Its eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the low light. When it saw Elias, the crest brightened, shifting from green to a gentle blue. It made a soft clicking sound and sat up. "Good morning," Elias said softly. The child tilted its head. It did not understand the words, but it understood the tone. It reached out and touched Elias' wrist where the console was wrapped. Elias smiled faintly. "I need to check something," he said, standing slowly. The child immediately stood too, staying close. Over the next few hours, Elias kept them moving but never rushed. He guided the child through quieter sections of the outpost, avoiding open areas. He showed it how doors worked, how lights responded to touch. The child learned quickly, too quickly. It copied him. When he knelt, it knelt. When he pressed his palm to a scanner, it pressed its smaller hand beside his. When he drank water, it watched carefully, then tried the same. Elias realized something then. This was not just fear. This was learning. The child was bonding. In Keller culture, at least from what Elias remembered from briefings, bonding was rare and highly controlled. Children were raised in groups, guided by elders, taught duty before emotion. This child had been alone, and now it had chosen him. That knowledge weighed heavily on Elias as the first transmission arrived. The outpost's ancient communication system crackled to life, projecting a symbol in the air. A geometric pattern Elias recognized instantly as Keller diplomatic code. He shut it down. Not yet. He needed time. Instead, Elias focused on the child. He used the outpost's archives to display simple images, stars, planets, shapes, colors. The child reacted with fascination, touching the light projections, making happy sounds. When Elias showed an image of Earth, the child studied it closely. When he showed an image of the Keller homeworld, the child stiffened. Its crest darkened slightly, shifting toward gray. Elias frowned. "It's okay," he said gently, though he was no longer sure who he was reassuring. Later, as they sat together near a window overlooking the empty landscape, Elias spoke quietly, even though the child could not understand. "They're probably looking for you," he said. "Your people." The child did not react to the words, but it reacted to his tone. It leaned closer, pressing its side against his leg. Elias rested a hand on the floor beside it. The child placed its hand over his. The contact was warm, real. Elias swallowed. That was when the second transmission came. This time, the system activated automatically. A voice filled the room, not sound but meaning, translated directly into Elias' mind through the console. "Human presence detected. This facility is under Keller claim. You will respond." Elias closed his eyes briefly. He opened them and answered. "This is Elias Rowan," he said calmly. "Survey engineer, I am not armed, I am not hostile." There was a pause, then another presence joined the transmission. The tone shifted, deeper, heavier, filled with authority. "You are in possession of what belongs to us." Elias felt the child tense beside him. "I am protecting a child," Elias replied. "That is all." The pause this time was longer. "You interfere with internal Keller matters," the voice said. "Return the child immediately." "You will submit for review." Elias looked down at the small being clutching his sleeve. "No," he said. The word surprised even him. Silence followed. When the voice returned, it was colder. "You misunderstand. This is not a request." Elias straightened his shoulders. "I understand perfectly," he said. "The child is frightened. It was alone. I helped it. I will not force it to leave." The child looked up at him, eyes wide. Its crest pulsed rapidly, colors shifting in confusion. Elias placed a hand gently on its shoulder. "It's okay," he whispered. The transmission ended abruptly. No threats, no countdown, just silence. That silence was worse than shouting. Over the next day, Elias noticed changes. The child stayed closer than before. It followed him everywhere, even into tight maintenance spaces. When Elias tried to step away, the child made soft, distressed sounds. Elias adapted. He slowed down. He spoke more. He began teaching the child simple things, not words, but concepts. He showed it how to wait, how to signal discomfort, how to indicate choice by moving toward or away from something. The child understood. It learned to shake its head when it did not want something. It learned to point when it was curious. Most importantly, it learned that Elias would listen. On the second night, as they rested together again, the child spoke another word. "Saeth El." The translator hesitated, then adjusted. "Safe one." Named, Elias' breath caught. It had named him. In Keller culture, naming was not casual. Names were assigned, not chosen. To name someone was to recognize them as permanent. Elias realized then that whatever happened next, the bond was already formed. The next morning, the outpost shook slightly, not from weapons, but from proximity. The Keller ship had moved closer. A final transmission came through. "Human Elias Rowan, you will prepare for transfer. The mother has arrived." Elias felt the weight of those words settle over him. The mother. He looked at the child, who stared back at him, unaware of the meaning but fully aware of the tension. Elias knelt in front of it and met its eyes. "I don't know what will happen," he said softly. "But I won't leave you alone, not now." The child reached forward and pressed its forehead gently against his chest, crest glowing bright green. "Trust." Outside, the stars shifted as the alien vessel aligned itself perfectly with the outpost. The quiet time was over. And the choices ahead would not belong to Elias alone anymore. Elias Rowan noticed it the moment the docking signal echoed through the station. It was not fear exactly, but pressure, like the space itself was holding its breath. The ancient walls vibrated softly as the Keller vessel locked into place above them. The child felt it too. It pressed closer to Elias, its crest dimming from green to a pale, uneasy blue. Its fingers tightened around his sleeve, and a low hum escaped its throat, a sound Elias had learned meant distress. "It's okay," Elias said quietly, though he no longer knew if that was true. "I'm here." The outpost's main screen activated on its own, filling the room with a tall, sharp-edged Keller symbol. Moments later, the image shifted, and a figure appeared. She was larger than the others Elias had seen in briefings. Her form was upright and balanced, her movements slow and controlled. Her skin shimmered with deep silver and dark violet patterns, arranged with careful symmetry. A long crest rose from her head, glowing with steady authority rather than emotion. This was no officer. This was Power, the mother, her eyes focused instantly on Elias. Then they shifted downward, to the child. The room seemed to tighten around them. "You," the voice said, clear and strong, translated perfectly by Elias' console. "Human, you will step aside." The child made a sharp sound and moved behind Elias, pressing its small body against his legs. Elias did not move. "My name is Elias Rowan," he said evenly. "Survey engineer. I am responsible for this outpost at this time." The mother's crest flickered once, a sign of acknowledgement, not respect. "You are irrelevant," she replied. "The child belongs to me." Elias felt something rise inside him, not anger but refusal. "She doesn't belong to anyone," he said. "She was alone, she was hurt." "I helped her." The mother stepped closer to the projection field, her image becoming sharper. "You interfered," she said. "You altered her development, you created attachment. This is damage." The word struck Elias harder than any insult. "Attachment isn't damage," he said. "It's how children survive." The mother was silent for several seconds. When she spoke again, her voice was colder. "You speak from ignorance. Our children are shaped by structure, not emotion. You have disrupted balance." The child peeked out from behind Elias, eyes wide. When it saw the mother, its crest darkened sharply, shifting toward gray. It shook its head. The mother noticed. For the first time, something changed in her expression, not softness but surprise. "Come forward," she commanded the child. The child did not move. It tightened its grip on Elias' clothing. Elias felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He knew what refusing a direct Keller command meant, but he also knew what forcing the child would do. "She's scared," Elias said. "Can you not see that?" The mother's crest pulsed faintly. "Fear is corrected through guidance," she said. "Release her." "No," Elias said again. The room went silent. Not even the hum of the outpost system seemed to exist anymore. Finally, the mother spoke. "You will accompany the child to our vessel," she said. "You will answer for this." Elias felt the child tremble. He knelt down slowly, bringing himself to the child's level. He spoke softly, though his words were for both of them. "I won't let anything happen to you," he said. "But we may have to go somewhere else for a while." The child looked at him, searching his face. Its crest flickered uncertainly, then slowly returned to a soft green. It nodded once. Elias stood. "I will come," he said to the mother. "But the child stays with me, no restraints." "No separation." The mother studied him carefully. "You make demands of me," she said. "I make promises to her," Elias replied. Another long silence followed. At last, the mother inclined her head slightly. "Agreed," she said. "For now." The transfer was quiet, no guards. No weapons, just light and movement as Elias and the child were guided into a small transport chamber. The child stayed close, one hand always touching Elias, as if letting go might make him disappear. When the chamber opened again, they were no longer in the outpost. They stood inside the Keller vessel. The space was wide and open, filled with soft light that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Smooth surfaces curved naturally, without sharp edges. The air felt warmer, heavier, carrying a faint metallic scent. The child stiffened. Its crest darkened again. The mother waited a short distance away, watching closely. "You are inside a place of authority," she said. "You will speak only when addressed." Elias nodded once. They were guided to a circular chamber. Other Keller were present, elders, observers, officials, but all stood back. None approached the child. That, Elias noticed, was important. The mother stepped into the center. "This human has violated Keller boundary law," she said to the assembly. "He has taken a child under protection without consent." Elias spoke before he could stop himself. "She was abandoned," he said, "left alone in a broken outpost." A ripple passed through the chamber. The mother turned slowly. "She was not abandoned," she said. "She was lost." "Then why didn't she want to come with you?" Elias asked quietly. The question hung in the air. The mother looked at the child again. "Child," she said, her voice shifting slightly, becoming lower, more focused. "Explain your resistance." The child looked at Elias. Then at the mother. Its crest flickered rapidly, colors shifting in confusion and fear. Elias crouched beside it. "You can choose," he whispered. "Whatever you want." The child took a small step forward. It raised its arm and pointed, not at the mother, not at the elders. At Elias, a soft sound came from its throat. "Sath, safe one." The chamber reacted instantly, murmurs, shifting colors, quiet movement. The mother's crest flared brightly, shock, sharp, and undeniable. "That is not possible," she said. "She chose," Elias replied. "Children do not choose," the mother said sharply. "They are guided." "Then maybe that's the problem," Elias said. Silence returned. The mother studied Elias in a way she had not before, not as a criminal, but as an unknown variable. "You will remain," she said at last. "Both of you, this matter will be reviewed under joint authority." "What does that mean?" Elias asked. "It means," she replied, "that your presence has forced a question we have never asked." The child moved closer to Elias again, pressing against his side. Elias rested a hand gently on its shoulder. He did not know what judgment awaited him. He did not know if he would be allowed to leave. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The enemy had not come for war, they had come for answers. And somehow, impossibly, one human and one frightened child were at the center of it all. There were no bars, no restraints, no guards standing too close, yet the air carried weight, heavy with attention and judgment. The walls curved upward like the inside of a great shell, glowing softly with shifting patterns of light. Every color change meant something, though Elias did not yet know what. The child sat beside him on a low platform, legs folded awkwardly, fingers resting on Elias' sleeve. Its crest glowed a steady green, calm only because he was there. Across the chamber, the Keller mother stood motionless, surrounded by elders and observers. They formed a wide circle, leaving the center empty. A place for truth, a place for decision. The mother stepped forward. "This assembly will examine intent," she said, her voice carrying easily through the space. "Not outcome, not emotion, intent." Elias listened carefully. Intent mattered, that gave him hope. "Human Elias Rowan," the mother continued. "You are accused of unlawful interference, unauthorized bonding, and cultural disruption. Do you understand?" "Yes," Elias said simply. "You may speak," she said. Elias took a slow breath. He did not look at the elders first. He looked at the child. "I did not plan to find her," he began. "I did not go looking for a Keller child. I was doing my job. When I found her, she was alone, hurt, afraid." A faint movement passed through the circle. "She could have died," Elias continued. "I could not leave her there. I would not." The mother's crest pulsed once. "You assumed authority," she said. "No," Elias replied. "I accepted responsibility." The distinction caused quiet murmurs. One of the elders stepped forward slightly. Its crest glowed pale gold, a sign Elias' translator marked as inquiry. "Human," the elder said, "did you consider returning the child immediately?" "Yes," Elias answered honestly, "but she was terrified. She did not understand what was happening. I chose to stabilize her first." "You delayed contact," the elder pressed. "I protected her," Elias said, "not from you, from fear." The mother raised one hand and the elder stepped back. She turned her gaze to the child. "You have been influenced," the mother said. "Your behavior is altered." The child's crest flickered uncertainly. It glanced at Elias, then back at the mother. Elias spoke gently. "She hasn't been altered, she's been heard." The mother looked sharply at him. "You will not interrupt," she said. Elias nodded. The mother faced the assembly. "Keller law is clear," she said. "A child belongs to the collective until maturity. Individual attachment weakens cohesion." One of the human representatives appeared then, projected into the chamber as a soft blue outline. She wore no uniform, only the simple emblem of Earth's diplomatic council. "Permission to speak," the human diplomat said calmly. The mother paused, then inclined her head. "Granted," she said. The diplomat turned slightly toward Elias and the child, then back to the assembly. "Human law differs," she said. "We see children not as property of the group, but as individuals with developing autonomy. Protection is not ownership. Care is not control." The mother's crest brightened slightly. "Your law is not ours," she said. "No," the diplomat agreed. "But intent is universal." This human did not seek gain. He did not demand reward. He acted without benefit. The elders shifted. Elias felt the child press closer to him. The mother studied Elias again, more carefully than before. "Why?" she asked suddenly. "Why protect a child of an enemy?" The question echoed in the chamber. Elias did not answer immediately. He chose his words with care. "Because she was a child," he said. "Nothing more, nothing less." The mother's crest dimmed slightly, an involuntary response. "That answer is insufficient," she said. "It's the only one I have," Elias replied. Another elder stepped forward, this one older, its crest marked with deep lines of age. "Child," the elder said gently, "describe your experience." The child froze, its crest flickered rapidly. Elias felt its hand tighten on his sleeve. He knelt slightly, lowering himself to its level. "You don't have to," he whispered. "Only if you want to." The child took a slow breath, then carefully it stepped forward. It made soft sounds, unfamiliar tones that the translator struggled to follow. Images appeared in the air, a dark corridor, a broken door, emptiness. Then a small light, Elias kneeling, holding out food. The images shifted, warmth, voices, light, safety. Finally, an image of Elias sitting beside the child while it slept. The translator rendered a simple meaning. Not alone. The chamber was completely silent. The mother stared at the images, her crest dim and still. "You fear us," she said quietly to the child. The child shook its head. It pointed to the image of the empty corridor. Then it pointed to Elias. The meaning was simple. Fear was not about species. It was about abandonment. The mother's posture shifted slightly, something almost unsteady passing through her controlled form. "You were not meant to bond," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. Elias stood slowly. "She didn't mean to be alone," he said, "but she was, and she chose who helped her." The word chose echoed again. One of the elders spoke carefully. "If the bond is severed," the elder asked the mother, "what is the outcome?" The mother did not answer at once. Finally, she said, "Disorientation, correction, reintegration." "And for the child?" the elder asked, a pause. "Pain," the mother admitted. The admission caused a visible reaction. The human diplomat stepped forward again. "Human history is filled with moments where care for the vulnerable changed entire cultures," she said. "We are not asking you to surrender authority, only to recognize that strength can include mercy." The mother closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, she looked at Elias again. "You have complicated this," she said. "I know," Elias replied. "I'm sorry." She studied him. "Would you submit yourself," she asked, "if it ensured the child's well-being?" "Yes," Elias said without hesitation. The child reacted instantly, making a sharp sound and grabbing Elias' arm. Elias placed a hand over its fingers. "It's okay," he said softly. The mother watched this exchange closely. "You would accept loss," she said, "without certainty of return?" "Yes." Another long silence filled the chamber. At last, the mother spoke to the assembly. "This matter will not end today," she said. "We will observe, we will measure. The child will remain under joint supervision." "What about him?" the human diplomat asked. The mother turned her gaze back to Elias. "He will remain as well," she said. "Not as a prisoner, as evidence." Evidence. Elias could live with that. The child relaxed slightly, crest glowing green again. As the assembly began to disperse, the mother lingered. She approached Elias slowly. "You believe protection is strength," she said. "I believe it's responsibility," Elias answered. She considered that. Then quietly she said, "We will see." As she turned away, Elias felt something shift, not victory, not defeat, but possibility. For the first time, the trial was no longer about law. It was about learning. And somewhere deep within the Keller mother's certainty, a small crack had formed. Elias Rowan noticed it first in the way days were measured, not by light cycles, but by shifts in observation. He and the child were given a private living space, open and calm, filled with soft light and smooth surfaces. Nothing locked them in. Nothing invited escape either. They were being watched, not with suspicion alone, but curiosity. The child adapted faster than Elias expected. It explored the space with careful steps, touching walls, sitting near light panels, listening to the faint hum of the ship. When it felt uncertain, it stayed close to Elias. When it felt safe, it wandered a little farther, always returning. Elias spent much of his time speaking softly, describing things the child could not yet understand. He explained Earth's skies, oceans, and stories about human children growing up with families, choices, and questions. The child listened. Sometimes it made soft, clicking sounds in response. Sometimes it rested its head against Elias' side, crest glowing green. Observers came and went. They never interrupted. They recorded everything. One cycle, Elias noticed a new presence in the room, a human hologram forming near the entrance. This one wore the insignia of Earth's Interstellar Council. "Elias Rowan," the diplomat said gently. "I'm here to speak on your behalf." Elias felt a rush of relief he hadn't realized he was holding back. "Thank you," he said. "You've caused quite a stir," she continued. "Not just here, across multiple systems." Elias looked down at the child, who was stacking small light blocks on the floor. "I didn't mean to," he said. The diplomat smiled faintly. "That may be the most human thing you could have done." Later that day, Elias was summoned to a shared chamber. This time, the Keller mother was not alone. Several elders were present, along with 2 human representatives. The child stayed close to Elias, fingers brushing his hand. The mother began without ceremony. Human authorities have submitted formal records, she said. Historical examples of behavior similar to yours. Images appeared in the air. Humans shielding children during disasters. Humans adopting orphaned young from enemy nations. Humans crossing borders to provide aid with no promise of reward. The elders watched in silence. This pattern is consistent, one elder admitted. Elias spoke carefully. We don't do it because it benefits us, he said. We do it because someone has to. The mother turned to him. Your species accepts loss willingly, she said. That is illogical. Yes, Elias replied, but it works. The child shifted, then pointed to one of the images, a human holding a frightened child. It made a soft sound. Recognition, the mother noticed. You identify with them, she said to the child. The child nodded slightly, then reached for Elias' hand. The mother's crest pulsed faintly. That evening, Elias was allowed limited access to the ship's shared areas under observation. As he walked with the child through a wide corridor, other Keller paused to watch. Some showed confusion. Others showed something close to discomfort. One younger Keller stepped forward hesitantly and placed a small object on the floor, a simple toy-like shape made of light. It then stepped back quickly. The child stared, then looked up at Elias. It's okay, Elias said softly. The child picked up the object and made a happy clicking sound. The Keller observer watched silently, crest glowing with uncertain color. Change was happening, quietly. The next session with the mother came unexpectedly. She requested Elias alone. The child reacted immediately, crest darkening. Elias knelt and spoke softly. I'll be nearby, he said. I promise. After a moment, the child allowed itself to be guided to an adjoining space, where human and Keller observers remained present. The mother stood facing Elias. You have forced us into reflection, she said. That is uncomfortable. I understand, Elias replied. Our civilization was built on stability, she continued, on minimizing emotional variance. And ours wasn't, Elias said. We're messy, we argue, we feel too much. The mother studied him. Yet you survive, she said. Yes. She turned slightly, looking toward the observation window where the child could be seen. The child exhibits reduced fear responses in your presence, she said. Increased curiosity, increased autonomy. That's growth, Elias said. It is deviation, the mother replied. Sometimes they're the same thing. The mother was silent. If we return the child fully to our systems, she said slowly, the bond will be severed. Elias felt his chest tight. And if you do, he asked. We risk precedent, she said. We risk change, Elias nodded. That's always the risk, he said, but also the reward. The mother looked at him sharply. You would accept responsibility for the outcome? Yes, Elias said, even if it costs me. The mother turned away. Later that cycle, a joint statement was broadcast across human and Keller channels. It was brief. A review of child autonomy protocols has been initiated. Human Elias Rowan remains under observation. The child's status is unresolved. Across human space, the response was immediate but quiet. No threats, no fleets. Instead, messages arrived, teachers, caregivers, parents, scientists, stories, all describing moments where protecting someone weaker had changed lives. The Keller elders reviewed them carefully. The child sensed the tension. It stayed close to Elias, holding his hand more often, seeking reassurance. Elias gave it freely. You're not a problem, he whispered one night. You're important. The child rested its head against him, crest glowing softly. The final meeting of the cycle was the most tense. The mother stood before the assembly once more. We face a choice, she said, to enforce law without question or to learn. She looked directly at Elias. Human, if given the chance, would you release the child? Elias answered slowly. I would never trap her, he said. I would let her choose. The chamber fell silent. The child stepped forward. It looked at the mother, then at Elias. The choice was not made yet, but the possibility existed. And for the first time, the Keller mother did not reject it. She closed her eyes briefly. The final determination will be made soon, she said. Elias felt the weight of the coming moment settle over him. Humanity had not raised a weapon, had not issued an ultimatum. It had simply stood still and refused to look away. And sometimes that was enough to change the course of history. Keller elders lined the curved walls, their crests glowing in slow, thoughtful colors. Human representatives stood among them as light projections, quiet and still. No one spoke, no one moved without purpose, At the center stood the child, small, silent, watched by two civilizations. Elias Rowan stood just behind her, close enough that she could feel his presence without touching him. He had been asked to stay silent, to not guide, to not influence. That was the hardest order he had received. The Keller mother stepped forward, her movements calm, controlled as always, yet Elias noticed something different. Her crest did not glow with authority alone. It shifted faintly with uncertainty. "This review reaches its end," the mother said. "The matter before us cannot be solved by law alone." She turned her gaze to the child. "You will speak," she said, "not as property, not as symbol, as yourself." The chamber reacted instantly. Colors shifted. Elders murmured softly. Elias felt his heart tighten. This had never happened before. The child looked around, overwhelmed by the attention. Her crest flickered rapidly, colors chasing each other in confusion. She turned her head slightly, searching. Her eyes found Elias. He did not move, he did not speak. He only met her gaze and nodded once, slow, steady. "You choose." The child took a small step forward. The translator activated automatically, struggling at first, then stabilizing as the child began to speak in careful sounds. Images formed in the air as she spoke, memories shaped into light. Darkness, cold metal, hunger, then a door opening, a human kneeling, a hand offering food, warmth, safety. The images shifted again, laughter, light blocks stacking and falling. A soft voice speaking words she did not understand but trusted anyway. Finally, the images split. On one side, the Keller homeworld, order, structure, many voices, none alone. On the other, Elias, one human, one steady presence. The child's voice trembled. "I was lost," the translator rendered simply. "I was afraid." The chamber was silent. He stayed. The child turned fully now, facing the mother. Her crest glowed pale green, honest, unguarded. "I want," she paused, struggling. "I want to choose." A sharp intake of breath rippled through the elders. The mother did not interrupt. "I want my people," the child continued. "And I want him." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Elias closed his eyes briefly. He had known this might happen. He had hoped. But hope still hurt. The mother stepped closer, lowering herself slightly so she was no longer towering over the child. "You cannot belong to both," she said gently. The child shook her head. "I do not belong," she said. "I am." The words were simple. They struck like thunder. The elders reacted immediately. Crests flared in bright colors, shock, confusion, fear. The mother froze. For the first time since Elias had met her, she did not speak right away. She turned slowly to the elders. "We did not teach her that," she said. One elder responded quietly. "No," they said, "we did not." The mother turned back to the child. "If you return fully," she said, "the human will leave." The child glanced at Elias. He remained still. "If I stay only with him," the child said, "I lose my people." The mother nodded once. "Yes." The child was silent for a long moment. Then she spoke again. "Then I choose time." The translator hesitated, then clarified. "Time to grow, time to learn, time to decide later." The chamber erupted in motion. Elders spoke at once. Colors flashed. Patterns shifted wildly. The mother raised her hand and silence fell again. She looked at Elias. "Human," she said, "do you understand what she asks?" "Yes," Elias replied quietly. "She's asking not to be forced." The mother looked back at the child. "You ask for uncertainty," she said. "For change without promise." The child nodded. "He taught me that," she said simply. All eyes turned to Elias. He felt the weight of them, but he did not shrink. "I didn't teach her uncertainty," he said. "I just didn't lie about it." The mother closed her eyes. When she opened them, her crest glowed a color Elias had never seen before, soft, mixed, unclassified. "This decision will echo," she said. "Beyond this child, beyond you." She turned to the elders. "We will allow joint guardianship," she said. "Temporary, observed, reversible." The elders reacted, but none challenged her. The mother looked at Elias again. "You will remain," she said, "not as evidence, as caretaker." The child made a joyful sound and rushed forward, wrapping her arms around Elias' leg. He knelt instantly, holding her gently. "I'm here," he whispered. The mother watched them. Something shifted behind her eyes. Later, as the chamber emptied, the mother approached Elias alone. "Our strength has always been control," she said quietly. "Yours seems to be restraint." Elias thought for a moment. "Our strength," he said, "is letting go when it matters." She nodded slowly. "She will change us," the mother said, "or break us." "Or help you grow," Elias replied. The mother looked at the child again. "Perhaps," she said, "that is the same thing." Across the galaxy, news spread, not of war, not of conquest, but of a choice. A child allowed to decide. A human who refused to dominate. A civilization forced to ask who they were, not just what they controlled. And in the quiet space between stars, something ancient and powerful shifted. Not because of force, but because one small voice had been allowed to speak. At first, life aboard the Keller vessel settled into something quiet and unfamiliar. Elias Rowan and the child were given a shared living space near a wide observation window. From there, they could see stars drift slowly past, endless and calm. The child liked the stars. She sat for long periods watching them, sometimes asking Elias to name them even though she could not yet understand the words. Elias named them anyway. He believed words mattered even before they were understood. Observers still watched, but their presence felt different now. Less like judgment, more like study. Learning. The Keller mother visited often. She never announced herself. She simply appeared, standing at the edge of the room, watching the child build light shapes on the floor or listen to Elias speak. One day she asked a question that surprised him. "Does she sleep?" Elias nodded. "Yes, better now. She used to resist rest," the mother said quietly. "It was inefficient." "Sometimes," Elias replied, "rest isn't about efficiency." The mother considered that. The child noticed her then and waved, a small, awkward motion she had learned from Elias. The mother froze for a moment, then slowly raised her own hand in return. It was the first time Elias saw her imitate something human. News traveled far beyond the ship. Across human systems, the story spread, not with excitement but with pride. No battle footage, no victory speeches. Just a simple truth passed from one person to another. A human protected a child, and refused to let go. Across Keller space, the reaction was more complex. Some elders resisted the changes, others watched carefully. A few quietly supported the new joint guardianship program, very quietly. The child became the center of many discussions, not as a subject, as a question. Weeks passed, then months. The child grew stronger. More confident, she learned basic human words and Keller concepts side by side. She learned that questions were allowed, that silence could be shared, not feared. She learned that Elias always listened. One cycle, the Keller mother summoned Elias alone. They stood together in a quiet chamber overlooking the stars. "The elders are divided," she said. "Some believe this experiment weakens us." "And you?" Elias asked. She did not answer immediately. "I have ruled by certainty," she said finally, "by rules that remove doubt." She turned to face him. "Yet doubt has not destroyed us." Elias nodded. "It doesn't have to." The mother looked toward the stars. "The child no longer fears us," she said, "but she does not fear losing herself either." "That's strength," Elias said. The mother studied him. "Your species defines strength strangely," she said. "You protect without claiming, you teach without forcing, you leave space for failure." Elias smiled faintly. "We fail a lot. Yet you endure," she said. "Yes." That cycle marked a decision. The Keller Council issued a new directive, not loudly, not proudly. Children will be permitted voice during early development. Bonding will be observed, not prohibited. Protection will no longer imply ownership. The message was simple. The impact was not. The child was told gently. She listened quietly, then asked one question. "Will Elias stay?" The mother answered honestly. "If he chooses." The child ran to Elias immediately and hugged him, wrapping her arms around his waist. Her crest glowed bright green. Elias knelt and held her. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. The final gathering took place weeks later. Humans and Keller stood together in the same chamber where judgment had once waited. This time the center was not empty. The child stood there, beside Elias. The mother addressed them all. "This human will return to his people," she said, "but not alone." A quiet ripple passed through the chamber. "The child will divide her time," the mother continued. "Between her people and his, she will learn both paths." Elias felt his breath catch. The child looked up at him, eyes bright. "Stars?" she asked. "Yes," Elias said softly, "all the stars." The mother turned to Elias. "You will not be claimed," she said. "You will not be punished." She paused. "You will be remembered." Elias shook his head gently. "I didn't do this to be remembered," he said. The mother's crest glowed softly. "That," she said, "is why you will be." When Elias and the child finally stepped onto a human station weeks later, there were no crowds waiting, no banners, no speeches. Just quiet acknowledgement, and that was enough. The child pressed her face to the viewport, watching Earth grow larger. "Blue, green, alive, safe?" she asked. Elias placed a hand over hers. "Yes," he said, "safe." Years later, historians would struggle to explain the moment everything changed. They would look for treaties, for battles, for heroes, but the truth would remain simple. No weapon was raised, no threat was made, no empire fell. A human protected a child who was not his. And when asked to let go, he chose responsibility instead of control. The galaxy learned something that day. Humans were not dangerous because they were strong. They were dangerous because they cared, and once a species learned that lesson, it could never forget it again. End.